fascinating piece of journalism I've ever seen on this. Who knows? But I saw that Connor Salians thing, and that kind of looked like rinse and repeat what kind of happened. I've seen a lot of those. Untold, unscripted, on this, on that, docuseries, and it's like, no, these are PR pieces. Vince already put out a pretty strong statement against this documentary. Of course he would, and we'll get you through his statement. We'll take a look at that. We'll do it next year on Rock 106.9.
The Stansberry Show.
Drunk and stupid is no way to go through life, son.
On Rock 106.9.
We'd all admit that attractiveness matters. Is it possible life is actually more difficult for pretty people? Find out next hour. Here on the Stansberry Show on Rock 106.9. We were looking at this documentary that is going to release tomorrow, I believe, on Netflix. At the center of it, Vince McMahon. Pretty much the brains behind the WWE, WWF, when I was growing up a kid. Loved it. Huge fan. Went to the first ever Survivor Series. Remember sticking my hand out over the ring. Miss Elizabeth, touch my hand. Oh my God. Miss Elizabeth, man, went crazy. Not necessarily a big wrestling fan now, but I do understand the appeal. I get it. Don't necessarily like when people call it fake, you know? I feel like a lot of those guys die early on pain pills because of how many injuries they got. So, like, fake feels like a word that's, like, not appropriate. Predetermined, scripted, fair, but the athleticism is there, for sure. Absolutely. And I think the injuries to the body are totally real. That happens. There's a dedication to the craft, and I can respect that. Absolutely. I would have a hard time selling that. Making it look really good. Somebody, went to go hit me but didn't. I would have a hard time. That would not be something I would be great at. So there is something in the performance of it that it's like, okay, it's performance, it's art. Yeah, art gets us in a little bit of trouble, but okay, I can understand the appeal. And like I've given Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons a bunch of credit for being, they were just visionary in what they created and what they passed on to other people. You can make the same argument and you'd be right about it with Vince McMahon. The NFL to this day still uses a camera angle that was first put out by the first version of the XFL way back in the day, 20-something years ago. They still use a camera angle that nobody thought you could do, but the XFL was like, well, we're the XFL, we do what we want. Still used today. That was Vince and his crew. Now, was that Vince or somebody who worked for Vince? But you take the point, like the guy is, the guy gets television. Much like the former president, right? Understands TV, gets it. So a documentary's coming out on him tomorrow. I've said this about documentaries. I feel like we're watching movies now and calling them documentaries. Now, that does not mean all of them. There are still absolutely real, informative, in-depth documentaries. Ken Burns makes a lot of them, but they're like 3.5 hours long, and I never hear anybody talk about how much they like them. You know why? Because they're 3.5 hours long, and they're investigative. A lot of these, what we're watching now, is True Hollywood Story type documentaries.
We
don't watch E
heading out into the middle of Amish
watching
country.
We just don't watch E anymore.
Entering the little town of Sugar Creek right now.
I'm not. I mean, he was ordered to pay 4 different women $12 million. I'll tell you what I find interesting about that. Is that there are people right now listening, and I'm not looking to go to war with him, the fact that he has settled similar lawsuits with women and paid money. Yet don't necessarily believe this about Vince McMahon.
This is considered the little Switzerland of Ohio.
Looks like that. Right? People will make concessions for where they want to make concessions. And I don't think it's the bulk of wrestling fans that's true. I want to say that part too. Vince McMahon a little worried about this documentary. He knows what's about to happen here. I got to be honest with you, as a guy their stop is when all that nonsense was going on with Vince McMahon. And it had tumbled a little. And I was like, oh, well, they're definitely going to bounce when this isn't back in the headline. When this isn't the headline anymore, this will bounce. I looked last night. I should have looked right before I came back from break. But last night, I was up $34.74 per share since I bought that. Meaning, I'm looking forward to tomorrow after it airs. Is it still holding at 34 plus? Where does it go? Now, it's been up and down since I bought it, but I'm a little curious about that. I don't have enough of it to sink me one or make me one. It's not like if it's, you know, if TKO takes off, it's not like I'm walking into my boss's office saying I don't work here anymore. And if it tanks, it's not like I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I have some money in it, but not enough to get hurt or get rich on one way or the other. Vince a little worried about the documentary. He did take part in the documentary. He says he doesn't regret that, but a little worried about what you're going to see. Quote, I don't regret participating in this Netflix documentary. The producers had an opportunity to tell an objective story about my life and the incredible business I built, which were equally filled with excitement, drama, fun, and a fair amount of controversy and life lessons. Unfortunately, based on an early partial cut I've seen, this doc falls short and takes the predictable path of conflating Mr. McMahon, the character, with my true self, Vince. The title and promo alone make that evident. A lot has been misrepresented or left out entirely in an effort to leave viewers intentionally confused. The producers use typical editing tricks with out-of-context footage and dated sound bites, etc., to distort the viewer's perception and support a deceptive narrative. In an attempt to further their misleading account, the producers use a lawsuit based on an affair I ended as evidence that I am, in fact, Mr. McMahon. I hope the viewer will keep an open mind and remember that there are two sides to every story. Yeah. That sounds like what somebody who looked at something and went, oh my God, I don't like this because it's going to be bad for me, is going to say. There is not enough of a push or evidence in there by Vince that makes you go, okay, they're lying about what I'm about to see. There's not. This is, nah, look over there, I didn't do it. Which is what every person at the center of everything is always going to say. This is what I've said about beat reporters and sports teams. They're so unfair. They're so negative. They're only telling you the blah, blah, blah. No. They are the checks and balances of the popular rich dude who gets paid a little too much money to play a child's game. So yes, they are going to look at what's happening off the field and report on it. They're going to overanalyze what's on the field and report on it. The reason being is back in the day, the media got dragged for only telling you about the touchdowns and the interceptions. You know, you're carrying the water for these guys, and off the field, all of this stuff is happening. And then they started to cover that. See, and round it goes. But the person at the center of the controversy, I'm not sure they can be trusted just because he's saying, they're conflating the character. Yeah. Everybody in America is going to do that, and he knows it, and that's why he's worried about it.
The Stansberry Show on Rock 106.9.
I'm in the middle of Amish country,
That show is Roaddog Cruisin Stadium,
heading to Millersburg, Ohio.
On Friday and Sunday, you get tickets for all 4 days. Sonic Temple Thursdays. Here on the Stansberry Show on Rock 106.9. Yesterday. Got into that Diddy conversation quite a bit, right? Yeah, he was denied bail a couple of times. I understand it. I do think he would be a flight risk, and I think what he's been charged with, I think, would make somebody want to run. And I made the argument yesterday, tough to be on 9 albums talking about how you own planes and tell a judge you're not a flight risk, right? Like, a little tough to go there. And Diddy now charged officially. Racketeering, sex trafficking, prostitution, just ugliness. Now, some of the other accusations are that he was having like sex parties called freak-offs in his houses. People have made mention of this. There's been whispers and rumors about like his white couch has been mentioned on mixtapes. Like songs that most people never hear, right? Like those mixtapes sold out of trunks of cars. Like those, I mean, for years. So somebody somewhere thought something was askew, if you will. Now, I say that after saying just because people have taken photos with Diddy doesn't necessarily mean they knew stuff. You know, like the people who were running for office. Oh, she knew. Oh, he knew. It's like, well, I mean, there's a possibility, but I don't think because you're enough of yourself even when you start to hear a rumor. Okay. That's a better argument. I mention it now because there is somebody's worried that Diddy has sold one of these videotapes. Now, here's where I get a little hung up.
Yeah,
if you're connected enough to where you're in Diddy's circle,
really nice out this way.
Orgy-style sex,
Especially this time of year when the leagues start.
The party, we know how women get in. Oh, you see her? That's how they got in there. A dude's gonna need some power and some influence and some, like, there's a reason why we let you into the clubhouse, right? Yeah, of course. My point is, you know he's videotaping, right? Because what would you be doing if you were doing it in the clubhouse? That's where it's like, and it's where pedophiles go to sell 8mm tapes, and apparently you can get weapons and got and I'm kind of a square on because square I don't necessarily want myself floating around out there. I don't even like the fact that my own personal Fed knows what I looked at on X Hamster last night. Some of you will get that reference, others will not. And so I don't even like the fact that the Fed knows that. But apparently he sold this off for $500 million, which you would have to be concerned about because of the price. My buddy tells me he bought something for $19.99. Who gives it for $19.99? Who the hell has $500 million for this not to get out? I mean, that kind of shrinks the list down overall. Other people are bringing this issue about Diddy up, and it's kind of true. A lot of celebrities who were are kind of quiet right now. Like, forget the fact that they're not defending themselves and not him. Where are even just the general overall statements of what we're hearing is shocking and I am unaware and I didn't know? Where are any of those from all of these people who were telling you how great this guy was and people who were at these parties? Where are more and more of these statements of, well, I attended parties at Diddy's house. You're going to be able to see that. There will be guest lists. I will be in photos at some of his residences. I went to parties, and I'm about to tell you now, yes, I was in attendance. I never, not one damn time, saw any of this. Because normally you get those kind of statements, and if you don't, we stay up in people's faces and demand we get those types of statements. People are starting to ask that question. Leo, Usher, inner circle people here. I gotta be honest with you, I've been rewatching Entourage on HBO a little bit. He came up in an episode on that last night. I was like, ooh, dance, look at this, right? It creates that kind of uncomfortable moment for you as you're enjoying entertainment, Now, he's not talented enough as an actor to be in it long term. It was a couple of seconds, they moved on, and I forgot all about it by the time the credits rolled. But it was noticeable when I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, that's right, he's kind of going through that. We have no way to verify whatsoever if a tape exists at all, let alone has been sold. But I will agree with some people. I think it's a little interesting people aren't separating themselves a little bit more from the story at this point. Haunted Schoolhouse and Laboratory tickets, I have them all week, and I'll get caller 15 hooked up right now. 330-450-7625, your toll-free option. 800-243-7625 on those. Is it possible life is more difficult for pretty people? Let's find out next on Rock 106.9.
The Stansberry Show.
A first-class, bona fide, made-in-America screw-up.
On Rock 106.9.
Scumbag Bengals fall to 0-3 last night. Browns couldn't get their win on Sunday, damn it. It's frustrating. Welcome back to the program. Still got new Willie Nelson, part of New Church Tuesday next hour. And Mike Doughty won his way into Haunted Schoolhouse and Laboratory. Get another set of those tickets passed out tomorrow on the program. We would all admit that looks matter in life, right? Attractiveness matters. Also just how you present yourself, right? Shirt tucked in, ironed, a little bit of that, right? Hair and pants to work today that I wanted to because I was like, damn it, I woke up a little too late. I don't have time to make sure we do the extra iron on those. We got corporate dudes in town. So you gotta shine the shoes, leave the cell phone in the studio when you go to the meeting and that whole thing, right? Yeah, all right, come in here and tell me how I suck at everything. Right, kind of one of those. I'm kidding. But there is one of those, and I wanted to wear a pair of pants. I was like, dude, I'm trying to hire him, can't do that, gotta go with this other thing. Right, so look, man. We all judge people who don't look appropriate when we see them in public. Clearly not. The question was asked online, is it possible life could be harder for attractive people than it is for unattractive? I don't believe it. I think it's as simple as this. I don't think there's somebody who's so attractive you think to yourself, zero. Now, you might think to yourself, I can't hire them because of what I will be unable not to do, right? Okay. But I don't think in a cattle call situation you're looking at somebody who is so good looking, like, can't do it. They're too good looking. I don't even know what the role would be. Whatever you're looking for, but have a look where you know it's like, where they're just not going to be taken seriously. That can happen. I'm not sure there's a version of that for good-looking people, but the really attractives, and I guess I'd want to know who felt comfortable enough going, yeah, oh yeah, I'm one of those, ask me, right? Because I would have never had my hand raised for that and shouldn't. You know what some of these complaints are by attractive people. They're pretty basic, at least they start out that way. Well, you can't have a platonic friendship with, anybody of the opposite sex. I think maybe that's one of those things that feels true because of how true it is about some people. Confusingly, what I just said is, yeah, a lot of people are going to have an issue with that and going to secretly want something from you on the back end. There are people who can be friends, even though you're really weird. I've said this before. I had a female roommate, totally platonic, best friend, female, for years. That a man is like, when he sees a woman, like, oh, damn. She had it all. That makes you look like that. And I had the reputation I had. People were like, dude, for real? But we were friends. It's just the way it was. It's harder. I think in a lot of platonic relationships, given the right opportunity, it's not necessarily a constant state of want, like, I want to do this so bad. But in the right circumstance, the right drinks. Oh, you guys broke up. Oh, all right. Should we maybe try? I think in a lot of platonic relationships, that line can be crossed under the right candlelight, if you will, right? Kind of one of those situations. A woman says here, try being beautiful at a job interview where the interviewers are all female. Okay, like this, you know what she just said, right? She said what I've always said. Stick 3 women in a house, and the only thing that happens is, in 20 minutes, the other 2 kind of hate the hottest one. And you know why that is? Because the other 2 have seen that woman get whatever she wants with very little effort, ever. Now, see, the hot woman can flip that coin over and be like, no. See, it's real.